Well, good afternoon, everybody. Blessings on your life. I am late today. I am late today. I want to get right into it because I'm a bit scattered, and as always, I try to get a gallon uh, into a pint. I want to give us a historical fact on today. How y'all doing? I hope everybody's doing well. Middle of the week. Uh, this is Hump Day. Since it's Black History Month, I want to, set the stage. I want to preference our time together here today by just giving a little, a few Black history facts, if you will. So I want you to bear with me, and I'm going to read a few things I mentioned on Sunday about a book from Rufus Perry, and I do have a copy of it right here, and it's this right here, uh, and it's so old that they don't have this readily available, like if you go to Barnes and Noble and stuff like that. But I want to urge you to go out and get this book because it's a book from a historical standpoint that will change your life. It is very informative, especially as we delve into the history of Black people. Um, this particular pamphlet, it's not a pamphlet, but it's a book that I copied. I'm going to say this is not titled the same as you see it on Amazon now. On Amazon, it's got two titles to it. And perhaps what they did was instead of this book that you get, which is the original, the good stuff, in that, which I have not looked at, it may have some information in it that has been taken out of the original book. They always do the revisions and stuff, and people that's in charge that have money, they can revise things so that it will work well with them. So it's some very sensitive content that is in here, and that content is not anything that is scholastic. It's not taught in the school's curriculums. I would like to add it. I like to get it that this information into, the curriculum, the syllabuses and stuff that people use. But I'm not sure where this information on with this copy, how it relates to the stuff that you would order off of Amazon. So don't hold me to that. If you go out and order that particular book and you say, well, he said that this was the book. I did say this was the book, but I don't have that book. I'm showing you what I have, but it is the original book that I copied off of a printer because this book was not available when I was going through school and I had to have this information. Anyway, so let's deal with some Black history data here. It says here, and I'm reading on page 81 of Rufus Perry. The book is titled The Cushite. The Cushite. I think the other one is The Cushite, or the people of Ham, or the children of Ham, something like that, right? So here on page 81, I'm starting at the bottom of it. It says, by a careful study of ancient literature and archaeology, the logical conclusion reached is that ancient Cushites were the world's magnates, and the world's, now get this, because this is important for who you are, your existential position in life, and what you have evolved into from where you were. It says that the ancient Cushites are people that are black skinned, dark skinned people. Cushites were the world's magnates and the world's schoolmasters, magnates and schoolmasters, which means that they were scholarly. They were leaders of the time. Then it goes on to say those of Ethiopian taught art. This is all the things that they did. Now this is Cushites. This is you giving you a Black history fact. Taught art, science, and theology to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians taught the Eastern nations and the Greeks and the Romans. Now, history will tell us it's the other way around. Okay. Even Moses, in writing the Pentateuch, employed the knowledge of sacred things, and human rights, which he had gained among the Cushites of Africa. Moses gained his insight amongst the Cushites of Africa, and perhaps from Tharbis, which was his first wife. We won't get into that today. His Ethiopian wife. Inspiration did not educate Moses, and more than no more didn't educate Moses any more than it educates God's ministers of today. It merely illuminated and sanctified what he had learned in the land of Ham. Ham is the father of Cush, or the Cushites, for he was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. That's in your Bible. Under an Ethiopian dynasty. Now, hold that thought. Now I want to share something else with you here. I want to share something else with you here. The Cushites of the Christian era has not, as a race, been able to. I'm reading on page 162 of the book called The Cushite. Under this section is called The Modern Cushite. The Cushite of the Christian era has not, as a race, been able to cope with his brother in white, but there have been and are still individuals of the race distinguished for excellence in every department of human knowledge, learned in all wisdom of the Anglo-Saxons between the ancient and the modern Cushite. The only striking difference is condition, the offspring of accident or circumstance. So the only difference is the offspring, the ones that are modern, the ones that are of today. Their issue is of offspring of accident. This is by accident or by circumstances. In this, they are as widely separated as are the different epochs of their respective activities. When I say epoch, I'm talking about history or a person's life that's maybe marked by notable events, etc. Different epochs of their respective activities. For while the physical character is much the same, now here it is, the social and political status, the wealth, culture, wisdom, and prowess of the former are incomparable with that of the latter. But for this, the modern Cushite is not entirely responsible. Now, from here, he goes on to talk about some of the things that happened with the other brothers of Cush, dealing with uh, Japheth and the Shemites and all that. And we won't get into all the excuses that are there, although they're real, but we won't use them. I won't say that. We won't use them as excuses. It is what it is. What happened, it did happen. And so now we have to move on. We have to press on. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of history, since it's Black History Month, to let you know, to encourage you, to admonish you that you came from a very wealthy place. You were You were very educated. You're very bright people. You were leaders in the world. You were kings. Um, and you did great exploits at once upon a time. And according to Rufus Perry's research, the only difference between what was then and what is now is things that happen, things that have happened. In other words, what he's saying is we still look the same, but we are disadvantaged because of A, B, and C. Okay. And I'll let you kind of figure all that out. Now, I want to talk today just a little bit. I won't be before you long, but I wanted to kind of set this up with this insight as it relates to Black History Month, because my message today is going to deal with um, uh, these issues. And actually, the title is "Don't Break the Cord." I would have had a backdrop up, but I'm running late today, so I was not able to get all the things completed that I needed to. In fact, I changed my message a couple times just in travel, thinking about what I was going to deliver on today. So, so today's message is titled "Don't Break the Cord." Don't break the cord. Now, um, I want to go to the book of Ecclesiastes. To This is the book of the ecclesia. This is the book to the church, right? This is the book to the people. Ecclesiastes, chapter number 4, beginning at verse number 12, and it says this: "And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken." I'm going to read that again. And if one prevail against him, that's one. I'm saying this for a reason, and I grabbed this scripture for a reason, because this is predominantly where we have gotten ourselves to, and there's no strength in one. There's always strength in company. There's always strength in numbers in this particular case. Verse 12 again: "And if one prevail against him, two shall withstand him." It means that the cord now gets a little bit stronger. "And a threefold cord is not quickly broken." A threefold cord is not quickly broken. Now, without getting into Rufus Perry's book, he goes on to share with us um, the things that happen, how evolution took place. And I don't even like using that word, but how we evolve, because when you say evolution, you start thinking about the Big Bang Theory and all this stuff. And I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about over a period of time, how we evolved and we morphed out of and into something else. And so his rendition on that is there's several reasons, but uh, the thing that I want to focus on today is the issue of discord. It's actually two pieces that I want to focus on. It's the issue of discord, that's separation. That means that at some point we could not cohabitate together. We were weakened, and the other nations started to see that, and the other families started to see that, the other people started to see how we started to fight amongst ourselves. Is this coming clearer now? How we started to fight amongst ourselves. This was back when we were very prominent people, when we were kings and when we were queens, when we were leaders of the world. We were world leaders in education and teaching and all that stuff, science, math, and all that stuff. But there was division, and the division that happened, it took place in us. It took place in us first. As the people that were around us, they recognized that we were a people that could not stay together. They started to capitalize on that, if you will. They started to take advantage of the weakness that we all shared with one another. And even to this day, as we evolved, it has been a weakness from way back in antiquity. So antiquity shows the strength that we have, or in that we had, but it also shows us and shares with us the weakness that we had. And so, as a result of that, you can see where we still look the same in terms of recognition. We have the black skin, we still have the black features and all that, but we have lost our place, we have lost our way. And so, one of those reasons why we have lost our way is because we have we have um, how do I want to say it? Uh, we have resolved to walking alone. We have resolved to walking alone. And this now has become a challenge for us because we do not unite. We are not a united people. And so, whenever you are not united, then you are an easy target when you come against people that are united. And so here becomes the separation and the breaking of African American people. Now, that's one part of it. We had several problems along with the problems that we incurred with ourselves. It didn't make matters better when the other people did not act humanely or godly, and they took advantage of that. But hey, you in this world, but you ain't of this world. That's our position, and you can't expect the enemy or the people of the world to treat you godly and to treat you holy. The other thing that we had an issue with which I think is probably the bigger problem, and that is that we started to advance and really partake of the dark arts, and so black people have been um, um, how do I want to say this? We have been slated, we have been credited for when you get into things like voodoo and witchcraft and things like that. So um, it was first noted, and this predates the Bible, that black folks got into what the Bible calls idolatry. And that means that you started to take your eyes off of God. Now, some of you may argue and say, "Well, how did they know God and the Bible wasn't written?" You know God. I don't have time to get into that right now, but God has a way of communicating and dealing with all humanity, so there is no excuse. However, they pulled away from God. People, black people, they pulled away from God, and it makes me cringe even to say it. But I'm trying to paint a picture here in this next couple of minutes that I'm going to share with you, because I'm trying to show you where we got off at. And so we went from being the leaders to not being able to stick together and to be together, to unify with one another, not being able to cohabitate with one another, which was bad enough, to the place of idolatry. And so this now is a foe to reckon with, and it got entrenched. It got deep down inside of us, and we are still dealing with the bloodline, with the effects of that even today. So now, as we look at this and we bring this whole thing current, So we understand now that a threefold cord is not easily broken. When you look at us today and you give us this modern lens, this modern view, if you will, you will look at some of the things that is problematic for us, some of the problematic issues, and I'm gonna give you a couple examples so you can kind of pinpoint and just kind of store this in the back of your mind. Now, so we understand the historical viewpoint, what happened to us, where we were, and where we are now. Let me give you a couple examples of how this worked then and how it's still working now. So I didn't want to get into the part of Shem and Japheth, which are other nationalities or people of a different color that are now rulers over us, and they're ruler over us because of various reasons, which I don't have time to get into that either. But let me just give you an example of how we are disadvantaged today uh, as a result of us being a weakened cord, or a single cord, not even a double cord, and certainly not a threefold cord. Now, this is not to say that that's carte blanche. It is to say that that is typically how we walk as a people. We walk very divided. We walk in divisions, right? And so the people now that are in power, they recognize that one of the challenges that Black people have is that they don't stay together. And so this is the reason why my message is titled "Don't Break the Cord." Let's stay together, as Al Green would say. But they have recognized that we are people that will not resolve to banding together. Now, I want you to hear this because this is very germane to where we are and where we're going to continue to be if we don't shore up some loose ends, right? If we don't start tying the cords together. And so, one of the challenges that we have today amongst the Black race is we are challenged in the housing sector. We are challenged in the housing sector. And so, those that are at an advantage, they understand two things. One, they understand creative financing or creative math. The other thing that they understand is historical demographic landmarks. And here's what I mean by that. If a lot of Black people, they don't own their own home. And the reason why they don't own their own home is because people that are in power, they structure it, they set it up in a way to where it's going to be challenging for you. Because they've studied your position, and this is what I mean by demographic issues that we have. So demographically, they've studied the Black race and they understand that we don't stay together, number one. But they also understand that there is a median income range of about $30,000 to $35,000 a year. And so when you're making that amount of money, and then the houses and inflation and all this stuff is going up and up and up, $35,000 for a single person, because the study now shows that most of us, we ride along. It's the breaking of families. It's the single mothers with 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, that they'll never be able to own their own home because there's no unity in the family. They got with a brother, and the brother pregnated them. And when the brother did that, the brother bounced. So they have studied demographically our behavior. Again, let's go to Ecclesiastes 4, and 12. Okay. And so there is no bonding, and where there is no unity, there is no strength. And so when you look at that, they look at the median income of about 35, even if you want to say $50,000 a year. But when you got 50,000 and you got 2 to 3 babies or mouths that you have to feed, or either older kids that you have to support in some way, form, or fashion, then it affects the bottom line. What does that mean? It means that as a people, we will continue to not own and rent. We will not own our own stuff. There's a whole lot of places that I can go with this today, because even with that, there's a challenge as it relates to the things that we do go after. And those things they have studied as well demographically. They know that Black people, they are the leaders in car purchases. They know that they are the leaders in expensive clothes and bags and shoes and all that, those types of purchases. And so when you're in power, what you do is you devise plans. Let me stay tracked. So when you look at this whole thing, the big part to me, or the most troubling part to me, is that we don't own, we are renters. We don't own, we are renters. So now let me give you something that I noticed in the neighborhood that I live in years ago. I've been out here now almost 20 years. And we have several Indian families that are out here. When I first came out here, it was difficult to move here because of the price of the homes at that particular time. What the Indian people started to do, and there's several of them throughout this allotment, what I noticed that they would do is they would move multiple families into one house. And it was irritating to look at. And if you look at it across the board, that's what they have come to do. It's not just moving in neighborhoods, but they've taken on this approach even when you look at gas stations and different types of businesses and so on and so forth. They do that because they have mastered the art of staying together. Don't break the cord. And so we can learn a lot from them, but for some reason we have not learned a lot from them. And so we continue to be plagued by not owning our own homes and having high credit card debt, going out buying things that are not feasible for us with our circumstances, and so on and so forth. And so, I mean, I could continue to give you information and challenge thought as it relates to this. I'm just trying to give you a baseline as it relates to my book, A Cushite, just to show you where we were and where we are, and some of the things that happened. We incurred a lot of the damage that is happening to us on ourselves, and obviously there was other things that were systematic and structural that has become systemic for us as well. But that's a conversation for another day. It is real, but at this point, we have to figure out a way to overcome. And so the way that we do that is by not breaking the cord. So that means that people that are married, what you want to do is stay together. Even out here in my neighborhood, the Black families, more of the Black families are single family homes. Okay. And the white families are families. You see a husband and a wife, and you see children. Now, let me explain what that means from a banking standpoint, because when you say, well, I make $50,000, but I still can't go get a loan. This is where I'm going with the creative math piece. Okay. So you want to stop renting, right? And nowadays, $100,000 house ain't gonna get you much of a house. $100,000 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that was really something. You say, "Oh man, they got a $100,000 house." Well, nowadays, $100,000 house is an old, beat up raggedy house, and you got to put a whole lot of money into it. But let's just look at the creative piece on it from a mathematical standpoint, and how they are still devising a plan to centralize, in my opinion, Black people, to put them in a pod, so to speak, and put them in a place. You put them in a place, you watch them, you study them, you control them. Why? Because they're not smart enough to figure out the system to escape it, right? And some of it, again, there's a level of oppression, but most of that oppression, 50% of that oppression, is coming from us. I don't have facts on that, but I'm just giving you my observation. A lot of it is coming from us. So when you look at the way that they set up mortgages and stuff like that, what they do is they say, okay, you want $100,000 house. With a $100,000 house, you're going to have to bring us 10% as a down payment. Now, most single families, and when you say single families, you're basically talking about mothers. Mothers don't have 10% of $100,000 would be $10,000. Most mothers don't have $10,000 readily or liquid, or that they can go put their hands on to go make a down payment. They just don't have that. Even if you were talking about a two-family house, and the income, if you say that the income is $35,000 a piece, even when you put that together, it ups it. It makes it a whole lot more doable when you start talking about the 10%, or if it's possible for me to wing it, to save, and to save up enough to get put down on $100,000 house if you have two people, two incomes in the house. But here's the issue, y'all. They know that from studying the demographics that most Black people are divided. So you're not going to see the unity. You're not going to see families. And so what's pronounced is you have a single mother that has 2, 3, 4 kids, and she's trying to put all these kids to school. She's trying to clothe them. She's trying to feed them. She's trying to do all this. She will end up staying in an apartment. And with that apartment, they can massage that and play with that and do whatever they want to do with it. And you like a yo-yo, you got to move when they move. Okay. So these are some of the things that I want you to think about as it relates to Ecclesiastes 4 and 12. One cord, two cords, and a threefold cord is not easily broken. And where we are today, we are broken because we don't have 3 strands. We don't have, for the most part, two strands. We have, for the most part, 1 strand. I'll say this in my closing. I'm not done. This is very truncated, but I'll let it go. I was watching the other day. I like some of the food channels and stuff like that. I just find them to be very interesting. But there was a gentleman, and he lives in South Carolina. Well, he was there then. I don't know where he's at right now. His name was Rodney Scott, and his business, or his barbecue name, was Whole Hog Barbecue. Rodney Scott, Whole Hog Barbecue. You can Google it, check it out yourself. Anyways, his story is number one. At this point, he's considered to be the best barbecue pit master in South Carolina and various parts of the country, and recognized even around the world as a renowned barbecue chef. He has some challenges, and this is where I'm getting to. He has some challenges coming out of school. He was raised in rural South Carolina. His dad raised him with a very stern hand. I want you to listen to me. He was in a predominantly, he was in a Black area where he went to school. They were Black people. Fast forwarding, when he graduated and there was a girl in his class, and because they knew how his dad was and this, that, and the other, he appeared not to be liberated because his dad kept him, at home. He studied, he had time to do homework, and he was butchering, uh, slaughtering hogs and doing whatever they do to hogs. So she said to him, she said, "We know where you're going. You're going right down the street to the hog house, basically, or to the barbecue pit, and that's what your life is going to be." That was one challenge. And the reason why I say that is because it bespeaks of the way that we recognize our own. We don't uplift. We don't say, you know what, I see you doing this or doing that. But we always want to bring down. We are the worst race at bringing down one another. The other challenge that Rodney had, which is a beautiful story, and I admonish you all to go out and to see that if you just perusing. I believe it's on Netflix, I think. But the other challenge he had was, and I'm so familiar with this because it's a challenge that I had as well, and it's a challenge with his father. His father was a stern man, and he wanted things his way, and so they split. They parted ways at some point. Rodney had parted ways in the approach that his father had. He did it because he had to, not because he wanted to, or that he thought it was the best way, but because he respected his father and he loved his father, he continued to do it his father's way. One day, his father had a stroke. And when he had a stroke, what it did was it opened up the door for Rodney now to take over the business, the family business. And Rodney had to make some decisions, some hard decisions, and to make some changes. And one of the problems that we have is that we are rooted and grounded. It's a blood thing. It's in our DNA. It follows us. Excuse me. It follows us, and we have to come out from under the strongholds. Strongholds are really killing us. And so his dad had an issue with, a lot of the old school Black people. It's a control issue. And, you do it my way or no way, or you hit the highway, right? It's that type of thing. Well, I believe that God kind of worked in this a little bit, right? You can argue that. And his father had a stroke. And as he had a stroke, Rodney took over the business and he began to do it a different way. And he started to embrace some of the advice that was coming in from the outside, which was coming in from different races. And he was challenged by that because he didn't want to undermine his dad. He didn't want to let his dad down, and just all that, it was just the strongholds of it. Fast forward. So eventually what happened is Rodney started to change. As he changed, the business started to grow. He had some dips and some stuff like that. He was challenged. I believe that they sabotaged his storefront, caught it on fire. He had to go through a whole bunch of stuff before he basically rose to stardom. The point of this is, what I'm saying is, he and his father, they could have advanced a lot quicker and probably a lot further had his father been more flexible and more giving. And so as I saw that, I started thinking about us, and I said, it is a copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste across the board as it relates to Black people just at large. It's that we have a problem. We are challenged by being together, being unified, and being able to take some advice and say, okay, listen, maybe will you try this, or have you tried that? Have you thought about the other? It's just that we're challenged. And so that is something that needs to be broken. And until that's broken, we will remain a one strand cord. We will be challenged to get to a 2-strand cord. And 3-strand cord, it's almost at a point where it's impossible for us to achieve, in order for us now to compete, to be competitive in the space that we live in. And so this is just a little piece. Y'all know I deal a lot with our people, and I'm concerned. And so from a Black perspective, given that is um, it's Black History, given that it's Black History Month, I just wanted to add that in there. All right. I hope y'all got something from this. I want you to know that I love you. God loves you so, so, so much more. Share this message with a neighbor, with a friend, and even an enemy. Somebody needs to know it. It is biblically based. In that, if you didn't hear nothing else in this message, don't break the cord. Stay together. Stay together. That's the theme of this message. That's what the scream is in this message, is to stay together. I gave you a lot of historical facts from books and stuff like that, or information from Rufus Perry, but the prevailing message here is that don't break up. Let's stay together. Let's figure out ways that we can coexist in the same house. We can coexist with one another. We can be family. We can have businesses, and we don't fight and all that kind of stuff. That's what we need to do. God loves you. He loves you with an everlasting love. He loves you so much that he gave his only begotten son. He loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever would believe would not perish, but have everlasting life. I want you to go in God's speed, God's love, God's provision, and God's grace, God's everything, God's spirit, and the fruits of the Lord, everything that the Lord has for you. Go in the word of the Lord. Go in that today, and you will be blessed. Until next time, stay chill out there. Stay chill. Yeah, stay chill. We got a heat wave coming, 50 degrees, but stay chill, right? And I'll see you on Sunday. Shalom.